What is interface? So interface is the concept, you can say, which is used to achieve the concept of multiple inheritance. So let me write here comment. I'm writing just comment here that we can say that interface is used to achieve the concept of multiple inheritance. One of the biggest advantage is what? Interface is also used to achieve the concept of abstraction. What is abstraction? You can say abstraction is a process of hiding internal details, or you can say process of hiding the implementation, internal details or implementations, and showing only functionalities to the user. So showing only functionalities to the user is known as a abstraction. We can achieve the concept of abstraction using two ways. One is using abstract, we can achieve the abstraction, and another, that is using interface, we can achieve the concept of abstraction. You can say that using abstract keyword, you can achieve the abstraction 0 to 100%. So it varies. Why? Because abstract may allow the non-abstract method also. But using interface, your abstraction is 100%. So it is known as a pure abstraction. So 100% you can say the details will be hidden. So here it is hiding internal details and showing only functionalities. Let me give you the demonstration over here. For example, I am just declaring here interface I1, which has the function, and the function is, for example, void show. Whatever you declare the function over here, by default methods in interface are public plus abstract. Access specifier is public, so the child have to write the public. Why? Because weaker access privilege is not allowed in the overriding methods, and by default it is abstract. What is the proof of this that it is abstract? The proof is, if you write here the body, if you write the body, then you will get an error. Let me compile here, that is Java C interface demo 1.java. You will get an error, and the error is what? Void show cannot have a body. Why? Because it is abstract methods, and interface has by default it is abstract. So if you are writing or not writing, by default this show function will be abstract. Why? Because it is 100% abstract. One thing. Second thing is, by default this method is public. What is the proof of this? The proof is, for example, let me write here one class test which implements I1. So if you write here that the test implements I1, it means that you have to override this function show over here in a test class. So I have to override. If I am not overriding, then I will get an error. And the error will be what? The error is you have to override, or you need to declare this class test as an abstract. So I have to override which function? The function is show. So I have to override here function that is void show. If I am writing void show, then also I will get an error. Why? Because the default method in interface are public plus abstract. So if father overridden method is public, child cannot write the weaker access over here. So less than public is not at all allowed. So you have to write the public over here in a class test. If you are not writing, then you will get an error of weaker access privilege over here, and that is attempting to assign a weaker access privilege. So what you need to do? You need to write here public void show. If you write public void show, then and then it will work fine. So you can say that the method declared in interface is by default public plus abstract. So let me write the rule over here. By default, methods declared in interface are public abstract, and by default variables, or you can say constants declared in interface are final plus static. So let me give the example for the same. For example, I'm declaring here integer and that is number. Hence, this number is declared as a static and final. I have to initialize the value. So you need to remember the point that initialization of constants is compulsory in interface. If you are not initializing this, then also you will get an error. Let me compile this. So you people will get the idea that the error equal to is expected over here. It means the initialization of the constants is compulsory in interface. Why? Because by default, the constants declared over here are final plus static. So hence it is the final, you have to initialize the value. So I have to initialize here. For example, I am writing number is equal to 100. Hence this value is final plus static. I cannot change the value, but I can access using the interface name directly. How? Let me give the example. Class, for example, interface demo 1. Now I'm writing the main method over here. Now I can access directly value over here, that is I1 dot number. You can say that using the name of interface directly you can access the constants. So you can write I1 dot number. I1 is the interface and I1 dot number I can access directly. Why? Because it is a static by default. So if you save this and if you compile here and if you run here, that is Java interface demo 1, then you will get the 100. Why I am getting here I1 dot number? Just because it is a static and hence it is the final. You cannot change the value. I cannot write I1 dot number is equal to 101. If I am writing like this, then I will get an error. You cannot assign a value to the final variable. So it is proved that this number is final. So we cannot assign a value to final variable. You can access it. Why? Because it is a static and hence it is the static. I can access it directly. One more thing, that by default method declared over here, that is void show, that is public abstract. So how I can access this show function? So if you want to access this show function from interface demo 1, then here you can just write the implementation. For example, you can say this is test show implementation. So this is the implementation of the show function inside the test class. Now how we can access this? So it is very simple. We cannot create an instance of interface. So one more rule that you need to remember, it is the same rule as available with the abstract class. You can say that we cannot create the instance of the abstract the same way we cannot create the instance of the interface. So we cannot create instance of interface. Why? Because it is abstract. So if you write here like this, that is I1 I equal to new I1, then you will get an error. And the error will be what? The error is I1 is abstract. So it is a pure abstract and you cannot instantiate. But you can achieve the concept of runtime polymorphism here. You can write here like this, I1 I equal to new test. So what it will do? This I is the reference and my reference will point to class test. So if you call here, that is I dot show, then you will be able to access the function show implementation of test class using the reference of interface. So using the reference of interface, I will be able to access the test show implementation. So you can remember the thing that we cannot create the instance of the interface, but we can create reference of the same. And using the reference, we can achieve the concept of runtime polymorphism. Now, the funda is what kind of method we can write in interface. By default, method declared over here, that is public abstract. By default, constants, whatever you declared over here, that is final and static. Now, what kind of method we can write in an interface? So you can say that since Java 8 onwards, so you can say since Java 8, we can have default and static methods in interface. So if you write here function, for example, void display, and if you write the curly braces, then you will get an error. If you write here, that is interface non-abstract method. Can I write the non-abstract method in interface? If I'm writing like this, then I will get an error. Why? Because by default method declared over here, that is public abstract, and it says that abstract method cannot have a body. So you cannot write the display over here. It means that the abstract method cannot have a body. But you can declare your method is a static. So I can write here, this is interface static method, and hence it is the static method I can access directly using the interface name, and that is i1.display. If I'm writing i1.display, then I will be able to access this display function of the interface. You can save this, you can compile this, and you can run. You will be able to access the interface static method. So you can write the static method over here. That we can write the default method also. By default, access specifier is public in interface. So if you want to write the default method, you have to write the default keyword. So here you can write default void, and you can write display1, and here you can write the message. This is system.out.println interface default method. So how can I access the default method? So the class which implements the interface can access this function directly. So we cannot create the instance of interface. So using interface instance, I cannot access this because we cannot create the instance. But this function can be accessible by child. So you can write like this, that I dot, and you can call the function display1. What is I? I is the reference variable which points to child, and using this reference I can call I.display1. So you will be able to access this particular function, and that is interface default method. So by default, interface has the method that is public abstract. Even you can write the static methods inside the interface that can be accessible directly using the interface name. Even you can write the default method also in an interface that can be accessible by its child. Even you can access using the reference of interface if it is pointing to any child. From Java 9 onwards, so you can say another rule is a change into interface, and that is what? Since Java 9, we can have private methods also in interface. So we can have private methods in interface, and this is the rule from Java 9 onwards. So you can say since Java 9 we can have a private methods. So can I declare here private method? Yes, I can write private void display2, and here you can write that this is interface private method. If you save this, if you compile this, then you will not get error because private method is allowed in interface. So you will not get an error, but you will not get the message of this is private method of interface. This private method cannot be accessible outside the class. So I cannot write I.display2. I cannot write I.display2. Even I cannot write I1.display2. Even I cannot write I1.display2. If I am writing like this, then also I will get an error because it is not a static method and it has a private access. So this is not possible. You can say I.display2 is not possible because it has a private access. Then who can access this? The same can access this. So you can say here in a display1 function, I can call the function display2. If I am calling display2 from here, then I will definitely get the message that this is the private method. So who can access the private function? The interface itself can access the private function. So you can say by default constants declared in interface are final static. By default methods declared in interface is public abstract. We can write a default static and private methods in interface.